Good morning. Today we will be dealing with another session, that is in the engineering mechanics subject, about the principles of mechanics and force system. It will be the eighth session in this series, in this chapter. Now we will recap the topics which we have learned earlier. So before going further, we will just have a quick recap of the principles of mechanics and force system. 8 is the current topic. Now we have seen what are forces, what are different types of forces, how to find the resultant of forces using um, parallelogram law of force or triangle law of force, polygon law of force, resolution of forces. We have seen how to the resolve a force into different components. Similarly, we have found out the resultants of several forces using the method of resolution of forces. That is, we have resolved the forces into horizontal and vertical components using our basic knowledge of trigonometry. That is, we have converted them into the force into two horizontal and vertical components as f cos theta and f sin theta, and we have finally found out the resultant by summing the all the horizontal components and all the vertical components, and using the parallelogram law of force, that is r is equal to root of p square plus q square when two forces are perpendicular. Since fx and sigma fy are perpendicular, we use that formula, that r is equal to p square plus q square under root, or fv square plus fh square under root, to get the resultant. And also we have used tan alpha is equal to sigma fv by sigma fh. The sum of the vertical components by sum of the horizontal components will give you the tan alpha. So alpha is equal to tan inverse of sigma fv by sigma fh. This we have seen in the earlier classes. Similarly, a force has two types of motions, that is a translatory, it can affect two types of motions depending upon the point of action along the body. If it is away from the body, it gives the rotation motion. If it is along the body, it pushes the body, that is it gives the translatory motion. So either it pushes or it rotates the body. So when force is at some distance, it affects in giving a body a rotatory motion. The turning effect of that rotatory motion we call it as moment of force. We have found out the how to find out the find the moment of force, that is force into distance. Moment is equal to force into distance, and moments are dependent on, are of two types, that is either they can be clockwise or they can be anti-clockwise. Only these two senses are possible. So forces will produce either clockwise movement or anti-clockwise movement. The force about a point we have seen in this illustration. Sense of movement we have seen, whether it is a rotation or rotation in clockwise or anti-clockwise. Similarly, we have seen Verignon's theorem, that is the principle of movements, that is how the movements are added, or what is the resultant of movements. That is, in Verignon's theorem we have seen that the movement produced by a single resultant of those forces is equal to the moments produced by the individual forces. So if individual forces F1, F2, F3, etc. produce M1, M2, M3 moments, then the resultant of this F1, F2, F3, if it is F, then the final moment M is equal to, M should be equal to sum of individual moments, that is M is equal to sigma M F1 D1 or F into D, that is resultant force into distance is equal to the moment produced by individual forces F1, F2, etc. The moment of force about any point is equal to the sum of the moments of the components of the forces about the same point. This was the statement we have done. So then we have seen some concept called as couple. Couple is nothing but a system of force in which two parallel forces act in opposite direction at certain distance. Then they form a couple. That is, two forces which are equal, which are opposite, and which are separated by some distance. Then they form a couple. So the distance between those two forces is called as the arm of the force or lever arm. So moment of couple, the measure of turning effect of this couple is called the moment of couple. That is the force into distance. So if D is the distance between two forces, then the moment at any of the force below the force is force into distance. Similarly, the moment of couple has a unique property that at any point you take, wherever you take, it has the same moment. That is, at any point, the moment if you calculate, it will be F into D. That is force, applied force into the lever arm. That is the uniqueness of this couple. Then we come to the topic called as equilibrium. As we know, equilibrium is having the or being in the state of rest or motion, but it should be equally balanced. As we know, Libra is balanced, equilibrium is equally balanced. That means the forces are equally balanced. That means, in other words, we can say the net effect of forces is zero on the body. They neither produce a resultant force which pushes or a resultant moment which turns the body. So the final forces neither turn or nor displaces the body. It cannot, the resultant of forces cannot affect any translatory or rotational motion. Then the body is in the state of equilibrium. So the condition for equilibrium is net forces should be equal to 0 and the couple should be equal to 0 or moment is equal to 0. Equilibrium of a particle or a body. So what actually we mean by equilibrium? A particle is in equilibrium when a particle to be in equilibrium, the forces should be concurrent. So to make a force in equilibrium, that is, the forces should be concurrent, the resultant of their forces equal to 0. The resultant of their components should be equal to 0 to keep it at rest. When only two forces are acting, they should be equal and opposite. Suppose only two forces are acting, then the resultant should be, to make the resultant 0, then they should act in the opposite direction along the same line. Otherwise, two forces cannot make the resultant 0. So it is a precondition or prerequisite that two forces acting at a body to produce a 0 force, then they should be opposite to each other and they should be along the same line, and also they should be equal. We have seen that in the case of concurrent forces, that the resultant of concurrent forces is R is equal to root of Fh square plus Fv square. So we said a body to be in equilibrium, the components of, if it is acted on by several concurrent forces, the condition for equilibrium is that the horizontal force should be equal to 0, the vertical force should be equal to 0, or the resultant should be equal to 0. That is what we said. That is, if several forces or a force system is acting on a body or a particle, then the particle to be in the state of equilibrium, the resultant should be equal to 0. So let us say if number of forces are acting, then resultant is equal to sigma Fh square plus sigma Fv square. To make resultant 0, when R is equal to 0, Fh square plus Fv square both should be equal to 0, because if Fh square is 0, Fv square has some value, then resultant cannot be 0. So by seeing at this formula, we can say that if the resultant to be 0, both Fh should be equal to 0, Fy should be equal to 0. If one is 0, the resultant cannot be 0. So therefore we can say that a body to be in the state of equilibrium, resultant should be 0. To make resultant as 0, Fh should be equal to 0 and Fv equal to 0. That is, the sum of the horizontal component should be equal to 0, the sum of the vertical component should be equal to 0. Then only the resultant can be 0, then only the body can be in the state of we can bring it to the state of equilibrium. Equilibrant, that is what is equilibrant, we will discuss. As the name suggests, we can guess the answer. That is, it is something which makes the body equilibrium, which brings the body into equilibrium condition. So we will go into the detail about that definition or about this concept, equilibrant. The equilibrant of force system is a single force having its magnitude equal to that of resultant of that force system and opposite in direction along the same line of action. If we split this statement into small portions, we can say equilibrant is a single force. It is opposite to the resultant. It is along the same line. It is equal to the resultant. That is, magnitude is equal to the resultant. It is its angle, or it is along the same line as that of resultant, and also it is opposite to that of resultant. To make the resultant 0 or to nullify the effect of resultant, if there is some resultant, then it cannot make the body stable or static. So when there is some force acting on a body, the body tends to move. The definition of force itself is it changes the state of the body. So whenever there is some resultant, that means there is some force acting on the body. So to make a body to bring the body into the position of equilibrium, then the resultant should be 0. So there should be, since the resultant is a single force, some other force which should be there, so that it makes the resultant 0. That is, so that the equilibrant should be a force which is opposite to the resultant along the same line and equal to the resultant. So we can conclude that the equilibrant is a force equal to that resultant, opposite to the resultant, along the same line to the resultant. Therefore it brings the system to equilibrium. That is, it brings the particle or a body to the state of equilibrium. So this is nothing but a single force which is opposing the resultant, which is balancing the resultant, and making the entire system the sum of the forces is 0. So it is nothing but minus R. We can say it is nothing but minus R. Let us consider the equilibrium of three forces acting on a body. Let us suppose that this body is acted upon by F1, F2 and F3 at O. O is being acted upon by at O by three forces F1, F2 and F3. We know how to find the resultant of three forces. Three forces, the resultant is we can obtain by the Polygon law of forces. If we remember what the Polygon law of forces says is that a Polygon law of forces says that when the number of forces acting concurrently on a point are represented by sides of a polygon, then the closing side taken in reverse order represent the resultant both in magnitude and direction. So here there are three forces plus the resultant. It should make the polygon into a quadrilateral because there are three forces and the fourth one is resultant. Since the three forces are represented here in the second figure in a as a triangle, sides of a triangle taken in order, then they are meeting, they are forming a triangle. That means these three forces are forming a triangle and there is no scope for the fourth side. There is no scope for the fourth side. That means the fourth side is having 0 length. There is a fourth side, but that fourth side is having a 0 length. That means the quadrilateral has become, one side of the quadrilateral is 0. That is the last side, that is the resultant. The side which represents the resultant has become 0. That is why this figure has become a triangle. So the magnitude of three forces are drawn to some scale in the same directions as before, as they are. Then the forces form a triangle. According to the Polygon law of forces, three forces F1 and F1, F2 and F3, F1, F2 and F3 these F1, F2 and F3, they have formed a triangle, and the fourth force R, which is resultant, should form a quadrilateral. Since there is no third side, no fourth side, it means that the net resultant is R is 0. The resultant of the forces has the same effect as that of several forces. Here next we will see, since there is no force, R is equal to 0, hence it can be concluded that when the body is in equilibrium, there is no resultant force. When the body is in the state of equilibrium, there cannot be any resultant force. That means when a body is in equilibrium, suppose this, if I take this case of moves, when I am applying some force F1 from here and F2 from here, when it is at the equilibrium, that means F1 is equal to F2. So there is no net force because they are in the opposite direction. F1 is equal to F2 and F1 is equal to minus F1. So when they add, they become, algebraically they become 0. That is, since they are in the opposite direction, since they are collinear, they add up, and since they are equal, the resultant becomes 0. That means whenever a body is in the state of equilibrium, then there is no net resultant force. That means all the bodies, all the components of bodies, they form a force which is having zero magnitude. That is, all the components nullify each other, and the net effect will be zero. That is, there cannot be any final force which acts on the body. That is the resultant force which acts on the body. Resultant and equilibriant. Resultant and equilibriant. That is, what is the difference between a resultant and equilibriant? We are using two terms, that is a resultant and a equilibrium. So there should be some difference between a resultant and equilibriant. Resultant is a force that has the same effect as that of several forces. It is a single force which has the effect of several forces. So, when a body is acted upon by several forces, if they are all those forces are replaced by a single force, that force we call it as resultant. So, that force, finally, that force and its direction, which has the same effect of the entire force system, that we call it as a resultant. Similarly, the equilibriant is a force which is equal to the resultant but opposite along the same line. It is a force which is same as which is equal to the resultant and opposite to its direction. That means this this single force, it neutralizes or it makes the resultant zero. So to make a resultant zero, resultant is a single force, as we know. It is acting along some angle to the horizontal. Let us say alpha. R is a resultant. To make the resultant zero, we have to add some other force, some other collinear force which is equivalent opposite. So that force which makes the resultant zero is equilibriant. So equilibriant is a force which makes the resultant zero. So therefore the equilibriant should be equal to resultant and opposite to the resultant along the same line, that is they should be collinear. So the collinear force which is equal and opposite to the resultant is nothing but our equilibriant or equilibrium, force of equilibrium. We have seen earlier how to find out the resultant of a force. So we will see what is a, through that example we will see what is an equilibriant. In this force we have taken, in this force system, in this example we have taken three forces, that is F1, F2 and F3 at some angles, that is 60 degrees, 45 degrees and 30 degrees to the horizontal. This example we have done it in the other class, in the previous class. The same example I have taken to illustrate what is an equilibriant. Then three forces F1, F2 and F3 act in the first, second and third quadrant respectively, their angles being 60 degrees, 45 degrees, 30 degrees. So we have determine the magnitude and direction of the resultant by measuring the FV and FH, that is F cos theta and F sin theta, the vertical component and horizontal components. So here we have found out we have resolved the each and every force into according to their magnitude and angles into horizontal and vertical components. We have resolved this individual force F1 into horizontal and vertical component. Similarly, we have resolved the second force into two components and also the third force into two components. Then the numerical values will be like this, that is 100 cos 60 and 100 sin 60, 250 cos 60 in the second quadrant, cos 45, 250 cos 45 in the second quadrant, in the vertical component, and similarly we have seen. So we have summed them algebraically so that the sigma h, that is the sum of the horizontal component, has become minus 299.97. Similarly, we have summed the vertical components and it has come to 163.37. The vertical now we have resolved all the force system of which consists of three forces into finally two forces, which are the sum of vertical components as one force, sum of the horizontal components as another force. So finally all the three forces have become two force components, that is horizontal force and vertical force. Sum of horizontal components is minus 299.97 and vertical component we have seen 163.37. Now the problem is reduced to two perpendicular forces, sigma Fh and sigma Fv. Since the vertical force is towards up and horizontal force is towards left, then that represents that quadrant is second quadrant. Sorry, that is the second quadrant. That is one force is upwards, the other force is towards left. Then it forms the second quadrant. So in the second quadrant we have the resultant. So resultant depends upon the angle, or the angle of resultant depends upon the magnitudes of horizontal and vertical forces. If the horizontal component is more, the resultant tilts towards horizontal and vice versa. Therefore, the resultant magnitude, we have found that resultant is equal to sigma Fh square plus sigma Fv square, that is 163.37 square and minus 299.97 square. We have got the resultant as 341.57 kilonewtons. That is the amount, that is the resultant we got, that is 341.57 kilonewtons at an angle alpha. So to find alpha, we have done sigma Fv by sigma Fh, that is 163.37 by 299.97. we got some alpha. Now once we got the resultant at an angle alpha, let us place a force E so that the entire force system becomes 0. To make it 0, it should be equal to resultant. That is why if resultant is 341.57, then E should be 341.57. If the angle is alpha, then it should be, that is they should be collinear. They should be along the straight line. That is force R and force E should be along the straight line. So force E is also 314.57 kilonewtons. Then it will become the equilibriant. It should be in the, because the resultant is in the third quadrant, in the second quadrant, the equilibriant is opposite to it, therefore it lies in the fourth quadrant. If we are clear with the x-axis and y-axis, if this is x-axis and this is y-axis, then their equilibrium E will be opposite to R and equal to the R. So this green line which represents R and this red line which is representing equilibrium and this green line is representing resultant, then these magnitude should be equal. That is O R and that's green line and E line will be same, that is 341.57, and also their angle will be same to the horizontal. That is, we know they become, for this axis they are alternate angles. They since they are alternate angles, they have the same angle. They lie along the straight line, so they are collinear. In this way, we can say that, and we can show that equilibrium is some other force which is making the resultant, which is making a resultant is zero. So to make a resultant zero, there should be some force which is nullifying its effect. Therefore, it should be opposite to R and it should be equal and it should be along the same straight line. Otherwise, if there is a slight angle also, then they will become two concurrent forces. Then they become P and Q. Finally, they give rise to some other resultant. R is equal to P square plus Q square and cos theta, depending upon the angle between R and E. So therefore they should be perfectly along the straight line. Then only the resultant will be zero. Otherwise, there will be some other resultant. We have seen that when two forces are collinear, they can be added algebraically. That is why R and E are, since they are opposite, they are collinear, they can be added. Finally, they get the resultant. If R is 341.57 and E will be minus 341.57, that is in the opposite direction. Now we see what are the different types of forces we come across in engineering mechanics or while solving the problems in engineering. That is, the forces which generally as a civil engineering students we use in our entire course of study. That is, as long as we are engineers, we have to deal with these types of forces. That is, we are interested in these type of forces because our problems, we depend on these types of problems. As long as we are in civil engineering field, we come across these forces, hence we have to learn about them. So types of forces. These types of forces generally there are three types. That is, external forces or applied forces. That is, and the next one is non-applied forces. The third one is self-weight. We will go into details of them. External forces. That is, we are applying them externally. That is, on a beam or on a table, when we place some, or when we sit on a chair, we are putting some external weight on the chair. So our force is having some effect on the chair. When the legs of the chair are being affected by the force. Suppose if chair is very weak, it cannot take the load of my weight, then the chair will break. That means there is some force which is applied on the chair externally. So we in civil engineer, we deal with several types of loads which we apply. That is, either we put walls on the foundation or foundation on the soil, and all these are applied forces. They are not natural forces, they are applied from the outside, from externally we place the, suppose we are building a water tank on the roof, we are putting that load of tank and water on the slab. So these are all external forces or applied forces. Non-applied forces, these are inherent forces which which are in the body itself. That is, whenever some beam is there, it has, even though there is no external applied load, it has its self weight. To make a beam, we have some. So every body has some weight. If there is some matter, there will be mass. When mass is there and gravity is there, there should be some weight. That weight, that is mass into gravity, that as there is some mass in the body, there will be always some self weight in the body. Suppose we are designing some beam, let us suppose, then the external loads we have to calculate. Also we have to calculate the large amount of internal weight. A concrete beam has, if some, it has some dimensions, it has some length, so that load also we have to take into account while designing. That is why we deal with the self weight. And also, when the beam is placed on some support, then the support has some reactions. That is, it opposes the load. That reactions on the beam, we call it we measure them as a reaction. That is, when the beam is placed on some support, the support offers some reaction. That reaction is induced into the beam also. So we have to find out the reactions or support reactions in the beam. And the third one is self weight. That is, and we come into the topic of the tension and compression. So generally we apply loads in along the axis. That is, we call them as axial force. When the force is along the axis, it gives only the effect of force. When the force is acting away from the center, then there will be some eccentricity, we call it as. Later we will come across those concepts. But due to some eccentricity or some lever arm, there will be some moment. That is, when the force is acting at some distance, then it will produce a moment. That is why the forces are, we apply the forces normally along the axis of a structure, axis of the component of a structure or element of a structure. Along the column or any component, generally we try to put the load along its axis, so that there are no movements produced, only the forces are there and the structure will become stable. So in these axial forces, we apply forces, two types of forces called as tension and compression. Tensile force, tension, or generally we call it as tensile force, or in other words tension. Similarly, compressive force or compression. So when we pull a body, that is, when the body is, when forces, body should be equilibrium. It is not pulling the body, it is pulling the body from two sides and make it equilibrium in the condition. Otherwise the bodies, the house, the walls, everything will be moving. So those bodies will be in state of equilibrium and they are pulled by two forces. That is, generally they are pulled by equal forces. Otherwise there will be some, it will not be in equilibrium. When forces are applied, they should be moving. So the net forces should be equal to 0 to make the structure stable. When force act on a body and try to elongate it, the length of the body is, as we have seen, the rigid bodies and flexible bodies. So as we also discussed that strictly rigid bodies are not possible. We have idealized that. So whenever there is some force applied on a body, it tends to deform. That deformation may be in the form of elongation, compression, or change in its volume or anything. So here, when a force is applied, if the body deforms and elongates, that type of force we call it as tension. The tensile forces are forces which tend to elongate a body. That means the length of the body is, if slightly increased, if we pull a rubber band, the force which we are applying is tension. That is why the rubber band is being stretched. Similarly, we can also push the rubber. That is, whenever suppose an eraser can be simply compressed by using a force. That means we can decrease the length of the an eraser. That is, it is an elastic body. Therefore, when force is applied, it deforms. It is not a rigid body. So whenever force is applied, when there is that force, if it results in decrease in length, we call that as compressive force. These two forces are very common in our uh, civil engineering field. So the next topic will be the conditions of equilibrium. As I said, that every structure should be in the state of equilibrium, so that we can stay safely. That is, the body to be in equilibrium, that it, according to the Newton's law of first law of motion, every body should be in the state of rest or motion until it is compelled by the external force. So to be in equilibrium, there should not be any resultant force. There should not be any turning effect of that force. Then only the body is said to be stable or in the state of equilibrium. That is, as I said, it is the equal balance, or it is body is in the state of equal balance. That is equilibrium. Then when the coplanar force act on a body, the body will be in the state of equilibrium if it has the body to be in the state of equilibrium should satisfy these conditions. We are taking only the case of plane. We are not considering the three-dimensional objects. We are considering the plane objects. In the first session also, I have said that it is the normal in our normal study, we deal with only the plane objects. That is, only the x and y forces along the x direction and y direction. We are not dealing with the three-dimensional z force, the force in the other direction. So we are dealing with only coplanar forces. We are not dealing with the non-coplanar forces. When coplanar forces act along the body, so the body to be in the state of equilibrium, the forces then it has to satisfy three conditions. So there are three conditions of equilibrium. That is, the algebraic sum of resolved components of forces along x-axis should be 0. That means the sum of x components, that is all the forces, when several forces are acting, we have seen earlier also, if several forces are acting, R is equal to root of fx square plus fy square. To make R 0, fx square and fy square both should be equal to 0. That is, fx should be equal to 0 and also fy equal to 0. That is why the algebraic sum of all resolved components of force along x-axis should be equal to 0. Similarly, the algebraic sum of resolved components of forces along y-axis should be equal to 0. That is, sigma y should also be 0. So the first condition is the horizontal components fx should be equal to 0. Sigma fx should be equal to 0. And the second condition, that the vertical components of all forces should be equal to 0. Even though one component is not 0, then there will be resultant. So automatically that is not, the body cannot be in the state of equilibrium. That is, the body is not pushed in one direction but pushed in the other direction, means it will move in the other direction. So it should, the sum of the the sigma fx should be equal to 0. That is, the net force, net horizontal force should be equal to 0, the net vertical force should be equal to 0. Then only, if the force is, if some force is pushing and some force is not pushing in the other direction, means the body will move in one direction. So to the body to be stable in both directions, that is, it should not move along x-axis, along horizontal or along vertical, means then the forces should, both forces should be equal to 0. That is why sigma fx should be equal to 0, sigma fy equal to 0. And also the important point is that the third condition, that is, the algebraic sum of all moments of forces should be equal to 0. But if the forces may be 0, the net result of forces may be 0, but also they should not give any moments. They should not give any moment also. Then only the body or a particle can be at the state, can be stable or equilibrium. That is, there should not be any moments, either clockwise or anti-clockwise. There should not be any horizontal force, there should not be any vertical force. Therefore the conditions of equilibrium are sigma fx should be equal to 0, sigma fy should be equal to 0, and sigma moment should be equal to 0. There should not be any moment in that, since we are considering only plane, there we deal with only fx and fy. So fx, sigma fx should be equal to 0, sigma fy equal to 0. So this brings us to the end of this chapter. Before moving to the other chapter, that is the second chapter, let us have a brief quick recap of all the topics which we have learnt in this chapter. That is, we have seen, because we are interested in forces and their effects on the structures, we have learned what is a force. That is, force which is an external agency, which is an agency which changes the position of a or state of a body. That is, either when the body is at rest or at uniform velocity, then if the state is changed, that external agency we call it as force. So force is mass into acceleration, mass unit is kg, and acceleration is meter per second square. So kg meter per second square, we call it as, we take it as SI unit as 1 Newton. So 1 Newton is equal to 1 kg mass of having the 1 meter per second square acceleration. So kg meter per second square is the unit for force. Similarly, we have seen what are different types of forces. That is, coplanar forces, non-coplanar forces, forces along the same plane, forces in different planes. Similarly, forces acting on a point, forces which are parallel. Forces which are parallel are called like forces, when forces which are parallel but in opposite directions are unlike forces. So we have seen what are different types of forces, and also we have tried to find out the resultant. So resultant is the final effect of all the forces in the system. That is, when a system of forces has some forces, all the forces have one single effect. That single effect we call it as resultant. So resultant has both magnitude and direction. Like resultant is also a force. That is, it is a force which is resulted with the other action, with the other system of forces. Then we have seen how to find out the resultant of two forces. That is, we have used parallelogram law of forces or triangle of forces to find out the resultant of two forces. The graphical method is slightly inconvenient, so we have derived a formula to find out the resultant of force. That is, R is equal to root of p square plus q square plus 2pq cos theta, and so where p and q are two forces acting at an angle theta. To find the angle of resultant with respect to the horizontal, then we have seen tan alpha is equal to p sin theta by q plus p cos theta. That will give the direction of the force. Similarly, when the forces are perpendicular, simply the r is equal to root of p square plus q square, and tan alpha is equal to vertical force by horizontal force. That will give the resultant of force. Similarly, we have seen Lami's theorem, which deals with three forces which are in equilibrium. Then it says that the forces are proportional to the sine of angle which are opposite to that force, or the sine of angle which is between the other two forces. That is why we have seen p by sine alpha is equal to q by sine beta is equal to r by sine gamma, where alpha is between q and r, beta is between r and p. Similarly, r angle gamma is between p and q. That is the condition for Lami's theorem is that the body should be in equilibrium, then only we can use the sine law. Similarly, we have seen the resolution of forces, that when several forces are acting on a body, by taking two forces at a time and finding a resultant, and that is a very lengthy process and cumbersome process. It cannot be done. So when several forces are there, taking alternate two forces, and we cannot use the parallelogram law of forces, so we use the Polygon law of forces. According to Polygon law of forces, when all concurrent forces acting on a point are represented by sides of a polygon taken in order, then the resultant is the closing side taken in the reverse order. That is, if you take all forces according to their directions and convert them into some scale, and if you draw the diagram, a polygon, then there will be some open side. Provided that these all forces doesn't form a resultant of 0, then if the open side will be there, that open side, if we close it, that closing side will be resultant that we have to take in the reverse order. That is the Polygon law of forces. But practically, when for analytical purpose Polygon law of forces is not convenient, then we have found out another method, analytical method, to resolve the forces into horizontal and vertical components. Horizontal components are, we have, since every force is taken with respect to the rectangular coordinate system, they all lie in some coordinate or other, in some quadrant or the other. Then each force is converted into horizontal component and vertical component called as resolution. So after resolution of all forces, the forces will form vertical components and horizontal components. Since all the components are collinear, all the vertical components are collinear, they are added algebraically. Similarly, horizontal components and vertical components are added algebraically. They form two forces, that is sigma fh and sigma fy, and therefore we can find r is equal to root of sigma fh square plus sigma fy square. That is, and then we have come to the concept of the moment. So moment is when force acts at some distance from a point, that perpendicular distance into force will give you the moment. So force also produces a turning effect. When it is at some distance from a point, that perpendicular distance into the force will give you the force into distance, the moment. So these moments are very important because they tend to turn the objects or the bodies. That is why we have to find out the moments, what is the effect of moments. So moments can be either clockwise or anti-clockwise. And then in the next topic we have discussed about the couple. Couple is when two equal and opposite forces act at some distance apart, then they form a couple. Couple can be positive or negative. The distance between these two forces will form the arm of the moment or lever arm. Then these couples have some unique features. That is, the moment moment due to this couple at any point will be equal to 0. Then we have come to the concept of equilibrium. That is, a body to be in a state of rest or motion. The final force should be equal to the applied forces should be equal to 0. That is why the conditions of equilibrium we have seen. That is, a particle to be equilibrium, the condition is that force should be concurrent, the resultant of them should be equal to 0 to keep it rest, and when only two forces are acting, then they should be equal and opposite. Also, we have seen equilibrium. Equilibrium is the force which is equal and opposite to the resultant, so that it makes the entire system, it brings the entire system to rest. That is, it nullifies all the forces, though it makes all the forces into 0. So if there is some resultant, and if the body, if it has to be in the equilibrium, there should be some equilibrium which balances the resultant. So the equilibrium can be defined as the force which is opposite, collinear, and equal in magnitude to the resultant, so that the system is at the state of rest. Finally, we have seen conditions of equilibrium. That is, sigma fx should be equal to 0, sigma fy should be equal to 0, and sigma m, the moment should be equal to 0. That is, the sum of the horizontal component should be equal to 0, sum of the vertical component should be equal to 0, and moment should be equal to 0. We have seen what are different types of forces. That is, applied forces, external applied forces, non-applied forces, and self-weight. So these are all the different types of forces, and we also seen that what are the axial forces. The forces which act along its axis of a component are called axial forces. Therefore, we have two types of forces, that is tension and compression. Tensile force tend to increase the length of the body, and compression force which pushes the body, which tries to compress the body, then we call it compression. That is, the length of the body is finally deformed or decreased. So if the length is decreased due to some forces, then those forces are called compressive forces. When the length increases as a result of some action of force, then those forces are called as tensile forces. With this, I conclude this session, and hope it is enjoyable and it is informative to you, and we will meet in the next session with some other topic, some other chapter. Till then, have a nice day. Thank you one and all.